I am Rebecca Torres, a faculty member here at UT in the Department of Geography. And on behalf of my conference organizer, co-organizer, Dr. Alfonso Gonzales, a faculty member in the Lozano Long Institute of Latin American Studies, or also as we know, LLILAS, and the Department of Mexican American and Latino Studies, MALS, we are very delighted to welcome you to this conference, Derechos and Crisis, Refugees, Migrant Detention, and Authoritarian Neoliberalism. This is the 2016 Lozano Long Conference. So tonight we are fortunate enough to be joined by participants from two conferences, the Lozano Long Conference, but also Charting Research Directions for Children of Immigration, which is a conference that is being organized by Dr. Luis Sayas, who is the Dean of Social Work here at UT, as well as Dr. Lori Heffron. And we have put together a plenary panel this evening of excellent panelists who are going to provide us with a contextualization for the other two conferences. So contextualization of neoliberalism, forced migration, and the situation with Mesoamerican refugees. But first, before we get into that, we would like to thank our distinguished speakers. We have activists and advocates and scholars from Central America, from Mexico, from the US, and also here at UT. And we are very excited to learn from you, to exchange ideas, and we're hoping that this will also serve as a forum to seed some future new collaborations. We have intentionally in the program built in plenty of time so that you can also make individual meetings with each other, so you can network, and so that you can also try to enjoy yourselves while you're here in Austin and hopefully have a little bit of time to see our great city. We'd like to thank LLILAS, not only for the resources and the tremendous organization that made this conference possible, but also for putting Latin American refugees front and center. We are very grateful to Charlie Hale, the director of LLILAS Benson, and also for Paloma Diaz, the scholarly programs and faculty liaison director. Many of you have probably had a lot of contact with her. She really is the glue that holds this conference together. So we're very grateful. And also to all of the student volunteers who have been giving so much generously of their time and who will do so in the next couple of days. We're very grateful to our co-sponsors, the Department of Mexican American and Latino Studies and the Center for Mexican American Studies. And also, I just want to remind you to please take a program of the events for the next 2 days. We have a really excellent lineup of panelists, both for Thursday and Friday. We also have a dance and a fundraiser that is Friday night, and it is organized by Grassroots Leaderships and also the Human Rights Alliance for Refugee Women and Children, and it's going to be held at Mi Madre's restaurant here in Austin. And tonight, after the plenary, we really hope that you stay with us and enjoy the reception, and we're going to have food, and we're going to have a wonderful performance by singer and songwriter Salvadoreño Mauricio Callejas. So now I'm going to turn it over to Alfonso, who is going to introduce some of our other welcome speakers, and then later he's also going to sketch out for you this framing theme of our conference, which is Derechos en Crisis. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you to Rebecca Torres. Rebecca Torres has been a wonderful collaborator, a co-organizer with this conference. We had really a great committee for the Lluvia de Ideas, for the ideas that really came together for the conference. I want to thank Shannon Speed, who was instrumental especially in those initial stages with the conference. We've lost Shannon Speed to UCLA, but she's back, and we love her. She's a great colleague. In addition to Shannon, Luis Diaz was part of those initial conversations. Denise Gilman. I'm thinking there's other people too. I'm slipping on some of the names. I'm sorry if I forgot some of the folks that came together at this initial meeting. But we had a really great dialogue with Paloma, Shannon, Luis, and myself about what kind of conference we wanted to put on. And so I want to thank that committee for really coming together and bringing some of the main concepts together. In addition to those folks, of course, we had tremendous support from LLILAS and from Mexican American Latino Studies. I'm going to bring up Charlie Hale, who's the director of the Lozano Long Institute for Latin American Studies and the Benson Library Collections. Charlie's going to give us a few thoughts about the conference, just to open up the conference officially on behalf of LLILAS. Thank you, Charlie.
Welcome, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be able to welcome you to this fabulous space of the now couple years old LLILAS Benson Latin American Studies and Collections Conference Room. And it's an enormous pleasure to welcome you to what promises to be a very exciting 3 days. For the past 7 years, we've been honing the concept and the practice of these Lozano Long Conferences. These feasts of scholarly interaction, intertwined with and enriched by compelling calls to action. Este diálogo de saberes que nos invita a imaginar una unicidad consecuente con las sociedades que queremos construir. Each year after the dust settles, we reflect on the lessons learned and generally conclude, now that will be an awfully hard act to follow, before starting it again. So let me say briefly why I think Derechos and Crisis belong squarely within that tradition. First, this conference has come into being through abundant intellectual inspiration, political commitment, and hard work, virtually none of which was provided by the LLILAS Benson director. And, sorry, Javier, relatively little by the LLILAS Benson director of public programs. The best measure of vibrancy of any great organization is the empowered agency and efficacy of all its members. The program in your hands this afternoon is the creation of Professor Alfonso Gonzales, Professor Rebecca Torres, their steering committee, and I do want to give a special thanks to Shannon Speed. Alfonso said she's moved to UCLA. What I wanted to say is that she's actually moved to become the director of UT's newly opened West Coast satellite campus. And we're here, of course, although Paloma asked that I not recognize her as I always do, but I want us all to recognize Paloma Diaz, her legendary talents and dedication as Director of Scholarly Program. Second, a hallmark principle of the Lozano Long Conference and of LLILAS Benson more broadly is that our scholarly program should affirm long-standing relations of collaboration across campus and across the hemisphere, and also inaugurate new ones. We value immensely our tradition of reciprocal support with CIMAS and MALS, as Alfonso mentioned, thanks Laura Gutierrez. And we're equally excited to have partnered with the School of Social Work in planning these two convergent encuentros in tandem. The arrival, I don't think Dean Sayas has gotten here yet. There he is. All right, he did show up. Good. The arrival of Dean Luis Sayas to this campus 3 years ago is forcing me to rethink well-established theories of how universities change. What an amazing difference one visionary leader can make in moving forward campus-wide projects and principles to which we're all committed. Thank you, Luis. Third, this conference may well go down in history of LLILAS Benson for its amazing timing. Naming a topic more than a year ago that's grown steadily in thunderous importance ever since. But to attribute this to prescience would be to miss the deeper argument that the conference organizers want us to debate, refine, and assimilate. I'm reminded of a Lozano Long Conference a few years back when we ended making a collective vow to ban the phrase natural disaster from our vocabulary. There are natural events, we learned, which take on, for political, economic, racial, and other reasons, more or less disastrous social consequences. Our challenge this year involves an even more radical mental exercise. Every time we hear the phrase refugee crisis and its many variants, can we transpose thought and action, seeing this as a symptom of an underlying crisis of neoliberal democracy across Latin America and in the US? By focusing on derechos in crisis, the organizers argue, we can fully register how the problem has grown steadily worse under 8 years of a liberal, supposedly race-conscious Obama administration, even before making sense of the barbarities of Trump and his ilk. Thanks to the organizers for giving us such a challenging and appropriately Gramscian mandate. Finally, and with my apologies to my university colleagues, this topic is way too important to leave solely in the hands of academics. There's no possibility for an effort like this one to yield new understandings, much less strategies for effective action, unless our dialogue is framed from the outset as a frank, horizontal exchange between university-based intellectuals on the one hand and intellectuals located in communities, grassroots organizations, policy centers, and social movements on the other. Those who are producing knowledge as they struggle daily to effect change. Quite apart from what we learn about our derechos in crisis, I hope we'll also glean new insights on how to get this diálogo de saberes right. And in so doing, energize our commitment to keep on trying. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Buenas suerte.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very powerful word, Charlie. Thank you. I want to respond to them already, but I want to bring up some of the folks who also made this possible. Before I bring up the chair of Malls, I want to bring up Dr. Luis Zayas, who is the dean of the School of Social Work and the author of a recent book, Forgotten Citizens. It's a book with Oxford University Press on children who've been deported to Mexico. He talks about the new American exiles. I know I'm butchering your title a little bit, but you can tell us more about your work. They're having a parallel conference at the School of Social Work on unaccompanied minor children and undocumented youth. So there's a lot of synergy between both conferences, but we hope that we can steal some of the folks from your end and you can steal some from ours and we can have a dialogue. And you're all invited, of course, to the reception tonight, but also to the fundraiser on Friday to support some of the work of the community organization. So I'll bring up Dr. Luis Zayas.
It seems to me that only at UT could this happen. To have two conferences on similar topics, coming at it from different perspectives, and to do it with mutual support and mutual respect. And both respect for the individuals, but respect for the different disciplines and areas that we represent. So I'm just thrilled that we're able to do it and to show the rest of academia that even silos can be shattered and a lot of traffic can be created between institutions within a university. Indeed, what we have at the School of Social Work is a conference funded by the National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities, and it is about unaccompanied children, undocumented children, and children citizens whose parents are undocumented. And we have brought together scholars, some of whom are here with us in this setting, and we will be going back and forth as best we can. We'll may have to get a shuttle, but it's we're talking about kind of the issues around behavioral and social sciences. What are the mental health needs, the health needs, what's happening to children who are in detention centers, who are living in other countries of Latin America because their parents were deported, though the children are US citizens. So in the book, I've titled the book is forgotten citizens, deportation, children, and the making of American exiles and orphans. The exiles are those who were forced to leave our country to live somewhere else with their parents. And the orphans were the children who were left behind when their parents were deported. And neither of those is anything to be proud of, for our country to be proud of, and certainly for the present administration, Washington administration to be proud of. I think it's horrible. That's not what we do. And it's only gotten worse, as you know, through the detention centers that we have here in South Texas. And we're fighting very hard as academics and as activists to release them, to have them released. The battle is both national through the class action suits that have been brought against the government, but also local. We're fighting the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services from giving or rendering licenses, calling these detention centers child care facilities, where you don't see the outside because there are walls. You can't really have your mom cook you a meal. You have no privacy. You don't know what your future holds. But the state of Texas is going to give them licenses as child care facilities. None of us would want our children in those facilities. So we're fighting the battle here and across the land. And it's important that that battle, esa lucha, will have the voices of folks like those who are attending the Derechos and Crisis conference, as well as the ones who are working with us just down the street on campus, working on a research agenda where we can influence policy about the impact on the mental health of children who are undocumented, unaccompanied, or citizen children living in the U.S. as orphans or abroad as exiles. So when I came to Texas, I wanted to create as much collaboration as I could. And fortunately, I came to LLILAS, met Charlie, and felt the warm embrace of LLILAS and LLILAS Benson to do the work together. And they know they also have a place at the School of Social Work. So thank you all very much. And again, come over tomorrow and Friday and visit with us over at our meeting. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to bring up one more person before we get to the panel. Someone who is the interim director of the Department of Mexican American Latino Studies, someone who estimamos mucho in our faculty, Dr. Laura Gutierrez. She stepped in as chair earlier this year, and we're absolutely delighted with her leadership and presence. So Laura, I'm going to say a few words on behalf of Mexican American Latino Studies.
Thank you, Alfonso. And I want to also acknowledge the hard work that both you and Rebecca Torres have done, having been the organizer of last year's Lozano Long Conference and still recovering from that. I know the sort of the hard work, but it's also, and I'll steal a few words from Charlie. I think the ways in which that the Lozano Long Conference, at least, what you are doing here this year, and also what we attempted to do last year in terms of sort of thinking about cross-pollinations. So not just in terms of the ways in which the Department of Mexican American and Latino Studies is co-sponsoring this amazing event here today, and being one of Alfonso Gonzales's departments. I want to also sort of think about cross-pollination not just across units, not just across, with the School of Social Work and then also the Center for Mexican American Studies and our department, but also, and LLILAS, but also, with the community, hemispheric, those types of dialogues that are important, that are also urgent. I think that the ways in which you have come together to organize this amazing group of people to think through some things that are urgent for us, at a professional level in terms of how we think as scholars, but also as people, how we feel and how we act, right? So I want to welcome all of you on the behalf of the Department of Mexican American and Latino Studies. I hope that what sort of begins here continues further to affect for the better. Thank you.
So before I bring up the panelists, I just want to kind of lay out some of the main concepts that we've been really dealing with. This conference, like a lot of conferences, is really born out of frustration, right? A frustration of being here in Texas and listening to the discourse on refugees, on migrant detention, especially, Texas is the epicenter of migrant detention. There's anywhere from 25 to 30 detention centers here in Texas. And there's at least 2 family detention centers here in Texas. And if you haven't been to a family detention center, it's really one of the saddest things that you could ever attend. I remember the first time I went, as being a father, I couldn't, the only thing I can say is when I left, I said, I feel like I need a limpia because there was so much sadness in these rooms of seeing people detained, seeing 2-year-olds detained, toddlers. I have a 2-year-old myself, so it was really, really difficult to see that. And really, I think what we have in Texas is more than it's not a refugee crisis, and that's really been the discourse that's been used to talk about this, a refugee crisis. And we've even had events where we had the word refugee crisis in the title, and there's something was unfitting, unsettling about the word refugee crisis. And I think people wanted to use refugee crisis because there was a spike in the number of people that came in 2014. There was 60,000 unaccompanied minors and another 60,000 family units that had came in from Central America, mostly from Central America. But it's not necessarily a refugee crisis for us, but really una crisis de derechos, no? A crisis of the rights regime, right? There's this thing called the 1951 Refugee Convention. It's not being applied to these refugees, to women and children, to families. And it's also not just a Central American crisis, but a Mexicano crisis as well. And it's something that's been going on for years. I was talking to Alex Sanchez earlier in 2003 when I started, 1999 I started working with Alex, but around 2003 we began collaborating on asylum cases for Central Americans who are being deported back to El Salvador. And people have been losing their cases since, well, really since the 1980s. In the 1980s, over almost 90% of all Central Americans lost their asylum cases. In 2014, only 1% of Mexicans won their asylum cases, despite the severe violence in Mexico and the breakdown in the security. And in the breakdown, really, in the ability of the state to provide any meaningful existence and protection for people. So for us, this is not just a refugee crisis, but una crisis de derechos, una crisis del Estado, una crisis del modelo neoliberal en México y en Centroamérica, a crisis that's really deeper than people filing an I-589 form, which is the application form that you sign when you want to apply for asylum. This is a systemic crisis that deserves an important dialogue. And that's really the spirit of us being here today, to have a dialogue with scholars, with community organizers, with advocates, and with people who've been directly affected by the detention asylum regime. It's extremely important that we think about this in a systemic way if we're going to have systemic answers, right? Because it's not just about winning people's asylum claims either, right? That's why we don't really have a strong legalistic. We have an important lawyers that we invited to be part of this. Carlos Spector, Barbara Hines, Denise Gilman. But we also know that this is not just about winning people's cases. This is about trying to create structural transformation. And that's really the spirit of this conference. So I hope that we have a fruitful dialogue. And not thinking, we had to do a short title, but the longer title, it wouldn't just be refugees, but also forced migrants. Because a lot of people are forced to leave because of the crisis of neoliberalism and the security crisis, but they don't necessarily fit the legal definition of a refugee. That's an important part of the conference as well, forced migrants. In fact, the work of Dr. Raul Delgado Wise was instrumental in really helping us kind of think out the link between neoliberalism and forced migration. So those are some of the themes that we'll be talking about throughout the conference. So with no further ado, we'll get started with our first panel, and I'd like to bring up a wonderful professor who everyone loves. And if you don't love Nestor Rodriguez, something's wrong with you, okay? This is one of the most esteemed colleagues here, Dr. Nestor Rodriguez, who's the author of U.S. Guatemalan Migration, a book that he just published in 2014 with Dr. Susana Jonas. And Nestor, it's a pleasure to have you moderate this first panel.
Okay, let's just get right down to the panel because this is very important people bringing very important information. So as I call out your names, will you please come and take your seat here for this plenary panel called Neoliberalism, Forced Migration, and Mesoamerican Refugees. And I'll just go down the participants. Dawn Pauly, is Dawn Pauly here? Great. She's a doctoral student at the Autonomous University of Puebla in Mexico. And the title of her presentation is Drug War, Capitalism in Central America, Investment, Promotion, and Security Funding as Structural Causes of Migration. The next participant will be I don't think Doctora Julieta Castellanos is here. No? Okay. We're going to have Alex Sanchez from Jumis Unidos in LA. Thank you very much. Next, we have Doctora Cecilia Menjivar coming to us from the University of Kansas. And the title of her presentation is there a role for academics in the support of Central American refugees? Good. And then we have Agustin Estrada Negrete. He is with the International Center, all of them. And the title of his presentation is Los Refugiados Políticos en el Contexto Neoliberal, Experiencia Personal, Caso Estadounidense. Thank you very much.